Welcome to NFL Nexus. We're diving deep into the Indianapolis Colts today. And folks, they are standing at a massive crossroads. We're going to break down two huge, and I mean huge, interconnected stories. The absolute flameout of the guy they thought was their franchise quarterback, and a potential draft day gamble that could, finally, fix a problem they've had on defense for like a decade. And trust me, these aren't just your typical roster moves. We're talking about franchise-altering decisions that are going to define the Indianapolis Colts for years to come. So you're going to want to stick around because we have a lot to get into.
So here's our game plan for this deep dive. First up, we're going to get right into the weeds and diagnose the Colts' chronic, and I mean chronic, pass rush problem. It's a weakness that has really just haunted this team forever. Then we'll scout out a potential lightning-fast solution they might find in the draft. After that, we are tackling the gigantic Anthony Richardson dilemma. What in the world went so wrong, and where could he possibly land to get a second chance? And then finally, we'll tie it all together to see how these moves put General Manager Chris Ballard at a truly career-defining crossroads.
All right, let's kick things off with the one issue that every single Colts fan knows all too well. For what feels like an eternity, this team has been desperately searching for a true game wrecker on the edge of their defense. You know, that one guy who can consistently make life miserable for opposing quarterbacks. And despite all the investments, draft picks, free agents, that player has just been a ghost.
I mean, just look at this stat. It is staggering. In today's NFL, where you have superstars like TJ Watt and Myles Garrett regularly hitting 15, maybe even 20 sacks, the Colts have had exactly one player hit that pretty modest double-digit mark in the entire Chris Ballard era, and that was way back in 2019. This isn't just a small weakness, you know? It's a fundamental flaw that has this domino effect. It forces your secondary to cover for way too long and makes it almost impossible to get off the field on 3rd and long.
So to try and make up for not having that true alpha rusher, the Colts have kind of adopted this pass rush by committee philosophy. The idea is, a deep rotation of guys who are solid but not spectacular can maybe collectively get the job done. And hey, to be fair, they did set a franchise record for team sacks in 2023. But that number, while it looks great on a spreadsheet, it really masks the real issue. It's a strategy built on volume, and it just lacks that one singular destructive force that you absolutely have to win big games in January.
And here's the proof right here, 9.5 sacks. In a record-breaking year for the team, their absolute best edge rusher couldn't even get to 10. I mean, that says it all, right? You've got a lot of solid players, a lot of contributors, but when the game is on the line, fourth quarter, you need one guy to beat an all-pro left tackle and just end the drive. Who is that player for the Colts? For years now, that question has had no answer.
So, with that problem really laid bare, how do you finally fix it? Well, the NFL draft is usually the best place to look, and a recent mock draft from SI's Justin Mello, he proposes a really tantalizing solution for the Colts with their second-round pick, number 47 overall.
Let's talk about Malachi Lawrence. This is a guy who has been absolutely skyrocketing up draft boards, and when you look at his profile, it is so easy to see why. He's got the perfect size, the length, and most importantly, that explosive, twitchy athleticism that just defines the elite edge rushers in the league today. He is the physical prototype of everything the Colts have been missing, and he is the exact kind of high-upside prospect that GM Chris Ballard has built his whole reputation on.
Just take a second and let these combine numbers sink in. They are legitimately absurd. A 4.52 40-yard dash, that's in the 98th percentile for his position. That's what defensive backs run, not 253-pound guys. But for me, it's that 1.59 second 10-yard split that's in the 93rd percentile that really shows you his elite birth right off the snap. And then you add the lower body explosion, a 40-inch vertical, a 10-foot-10 broad jump. Both of those are in the top 3% of all time for his position. This isn't just good, it's rare, game-changing explosiveness.
So all of those incredible testing numbers, they get boiled down into something called a relative athletic score, or RAS. It basically grades a player's athleticism on a 0 to 10 scale against every single person who has ever tested at their position. Malachi Lawrence scored a 9.94. That is about as close to a perfect athletic specimen as you can possibly find coming into the NFL. It's a number that just screams elite, high-end Pro Bowl potential.
And this is the crucial point. Chris Ballard has a type. He is famous for betting on traits. He just loves drafting players with this kind of rare physical upside, and he trusts that his coaching staff can mold those raw tools into a dominant player on the field. So when a player with a 9.94 RAS is sitting there on the board, it's almost impossible to imagine Ballard not being incredibly interested. Lawrence fits his core drafting philosophy to a T.
And the key here is that he's not just some workout warrior, right? This isn't a guy who only looks good running around in shorts. That athleticism absolutely 100% translates to the football field. He was consistently productive at UCF, racking up 20 sacks, 28 tackles for loss. Last season, he earned first-team All-Big 12 honors, and his advanced stats were fantastic. An elite 89.5 pass rush grade from Pro Football Focus, 40 quarterback pressures, and a 19% pass rush win rate, which is an excellent, excellent sign of future success.
So when you put it all together, here's what you're looking at. He walks into the league with unteachable, elite athletic traits and a resume of proven college production. He can immediately step in and be a designated pass rusher on third downs, injecting that speed and that bend that the Colts defense just desperately needs. The questions are really about rounding out his game. He's going to need to add some functional strength to consistently hold his ground against the run and keep polishing his technique to become a true everyday defensive end.
Okay, now we pivot, and it's a big one. As we're thinking about all the hope and immense potential that a prospect like Malachi Lawrence represents, we have to contrast it with another one of Chris Ballard's massive trait-based bets, one that appears to have gone catastrophically wrong, the saga of quarterback Anthony Richardson. This news on February 26th. It was the official confirmation of a spectacular flameout. A number 4 overall pick, a player the franchise mortgaged its future for. The guy who was supposed to be the quarterback for the next decade is now actively looking for a new team after just a few seasons. It is a stunning, stunning failure that signals a really deep fracture in the relationship between the player and the organization.
The reports use some incredibly strong language here, calling it an awfully toxic relationship and an awful marriage. This clearly wasn't just a poor fit with the scheme or something. Something went deeply wrong behind the scenes. And while the reports are clear that Richardson himself shares some of the responsibility, they also emphasize a really crucial point. The Colts organization has to shoulder the majority of the blame for failing to properly develop such a physically gifted, but, let's be honest, incredibly raw young quarterback.
So, if the chapter in Indianapolis is officially slammed shut, where can Anthony Richardson possibly go to salvage his career? Well, let's explore a potential landing spot that has emerged that's, well, it's fascinating, and maybe the perfect fit for a reclamation project this big, the Green Bay Packers.
The Packers look like an ideal spot for a whole bunch of reasons. First, there's just a clear need on the roster. They lost their high-upside backup, Malik Willis, which leaves them with some pretty uninspiring options behind Jordan Love. But way more importantly, Green Bay provides the perfect developmental environment. This is a stable franchise with a long, successful history of patiently developing quarterbacks. I mean, from Favre to Rodgers to Jordan Love himself. They have an offensive guru in Matt LaFleur and a successful starter who can be a mentor.
This potential plan in Green Bay is the polar opposite of his time in Indianapolis. Instead of being thrown into the fire as a raw 21-year-old with only 13 college starts, he'd get to sit back, learn, and truly develop. He could absorb the nuances of the position from Jordan Love, who had a similar kind of apprenticeship, and he could master Matt LaFleur's complex scheme without that crushing pressure of having to be the savior every single Sunday. And at just 24 years old, he has plenty of time for a full career reset.
Look, this isn't just about a change of address. It's a fundamental shift in philosophy. A move to Green Bay would offer Richardson the one thing he never truly got in Indianapolis: time. Time to mature as a person and as a player, time to learn all the intricacies of the position, and time to harness his incredible physical gifts inside a stable, proven system. It's a move that could absolutely salvage a career that once had so much promise.
Okay, let's tie these two very different stories together and really examine the massive implications for the man at the center of it all, Colts general manager Chris Ballard. This offseason, right now, is a true test of his entire team-building philosophy.
This is the core dilemma for the Colts, right here. On one hand, you have the cautionary tale of Anthony Richardson, a bet on 10 out of 10 physical traits that has seemingly failed because the whole developmental part of the puzzle just fell apart. On the other hand, you have the tantalizing potential of Malachi Lawrence, another near-perfect athlete who represents a chance to fix a major team weakness. This is Chris Ballard's high-risk, high-reward philosophy playing out in real time.
This really is the million-dollar question for the entire franchise, isn't it? Does the spectacular failure of the Richardson experiment make Chris Ballard more cautious? Does it force him to rethink his entire bet-on-traits philosophy and maybe start prioritizing more polished, high-floor guys? Or does he trust his process, see Richardson as just an unfortunate outlier, and double down by taking another massive swing on the upside of a player like Malachi Lawrence?
The outcomes here are going to have ripple effects for years. This is so much bigger than just one quarterback and one edge rusher. It is about the entire team-building philosophy in Indianapolis. The decisions made this offseason, what they get back for Richardson in a trade, and who they pick in the draft, that's going to signal the direction of the franchise and define the next era of Colts football.
So that really is the ultimate question here. Are these moves the beginning of a new, successful era for the Colts? Or are they just a repeat of past frustrations, all rooted in the exact same philosophy? It's a fascinating dilemma. I'd love to know what you think Chris Ballard should do, so let me know down in the comments below. And hey, if you enjoyed this deep dive, please do me a huge favor, like this explainer, and subscribe to NFL Nexus for more. And hey, one last thing, a quick and easy way to support the channel is by checking out our coloring books. They are perfect for fans of all ages, your kids, your grandkids, even for adults who just want to unwind. You can find the link in the description or just scan the QR code right there on your screen. Thanks so much for watching.